You got to manage. I won't sympathize anymore. And if you complain once more, you meet down, I'm your queen. And if you complain once more, you meet down, I'm your queen. You're alright. There's nothing wrong. Self-sufficiency, please, and jack to work. And if you complain once more, you meet down, I'm your queen. And if you complain once more, you meet down, I'm your queen. I'm your queen.
All right. Welcome to In Other News. I'm your host, Rachel Bloomstrom. Thank you for coming to another episode. Today, our main story will be listed as incels and pickup artists, but it got really dense. So I do believe we're going to just be talking about pickup artists primarily. But don't worry, there is plenty of things to know, and it's mostly uncomfortable. So trigger warning, it gets misogynistic. Today, I am joined by Khally Sibanda. How are you doing, Khally? I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm doing well. How are you? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. What do you got going on? Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Okay, I'm Khally Sibanda from Zimbabwe. Yes, and I'm a theater practitioner here in Zimbabwe. I do write films and theater plays, direct, as well as produce at times. My upcoming film is one that I had written for Women Playwrights International conference in Canada. So I want to produce it here in Zimbabwe this coming December. As a theater practitioner, I make sure that I produce, and write every time. So that's my job, and that's my 24/7 job. Thank you.
That is a ton of work. I know, because I'd been producing the Quarantine Queens Theater Company for the last couple of years, and that is exhausting. So I don't know how you're awake right now.
Yeah, it's quite exhausting sometimes, especially the organizing part and making sure that everything is together and going on well. It's quite exhausting.
Yeah, and it's what, midnight where you're at right now?
Yes, it's 25 minutes to 1 a.m.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, you're a trooper, and it's the weekend, so hopefully you have tomorrow off.
Yes, tomorrow I'm off. So yes, I've got the whole day tomorrow, and I'll be sleeping, obvious, because that's one of my hobbies.
Yeah, thank you. And so we will be joined by Rebecca Bernstein in a little bit, but until then, we welcome my cousin Zach Byrd back. Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been fine. I'm Zach Byrd. For all those who don't know me, I work in cybersecurity. I also co-host a podcast with Rachel called Cousins Critiquing Content. Expect more content from that pretty soon, and happy to be here.
Yeah, is it time for us to really just like let loose on Sailor Moon season 4?
It is, and it kind of fits into today's topic too, with the pickup artists, because that was like the first part of.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They were like pre the movement we're gonna really get into. Well, they're in the in between stage, but he was pretty awful now that I think about it. Yeah, Fisheye especially.
Yeah, they're the prototype.
Yeah. Great hair, though. Great hair.
Yeah, all of them had great hair.
They have great hair on Sailor Moon in general.
Interesting outfits.
Yes, which is done. Yeah, but we'll talk about that on Cousins Critiquing Content. So a lot of things going on. Obviously, it never stops. I did want to give a quick Uvalde update. So they had a report come out that showed that they missed 3 opportunities to stop the shooter. There was no officer waiting in the hallway during the shooting ever tested to see if the door to the classroom was locked. The head of Texas State Police Agency also faulted officers in the scene for not checking other doors. They also had weapons, including rifles and body armor, training and backup, and they didn't proceed. And there was an officer who saw him about to enter the building, and for whatever reason, rather than take the shot, he asked if he should take the shot, and either the commander didn't know or just didn't answer, and so they missed that opportunity as well. They've been doing the investigations, but they've been doing it through Texas's Congress instead of their Senate, which means they don't have to do it publicly. Even though Governor Greg Abbott promised transparency, he let the police chief, Pete Arando, exit secretly through a closed-door testimony at the state capitol. The Senator Paul Betancourt said, "I challenge the chief to come testify in public as to what happened here, because it has been bad." Have you seen any of that in Zimbabwe? Have y'all heard about this story?
Well, in Zimbabwe, we haven't heard of the story yet, because, like, news take time to get here. But then we also got some bad news here in Southern Africa as well. Yeah. So I'm waiting for that one to come. Maybe I'll read about it sometime this week.
You didn't hear about the... So in Texas, a couple weeks ago, a mass shooter broke into a school, an elementary school, and killed 19 people, mostly children. Yeah.
It's been over a month now.
Oh, yeah, it's been terrible. And there were all sorts of follies, like the police chief. They waited outside of the classroom for over an hour before doing anything to help these kids. And these people were trained, like, even if the door was locked, which they now know was not, and nobody ever checked it, but they had the equipment to go through the wall or the windows. They had the equipment and the training, and they just totally failed these children. And in fact, what happened was there were parents who were trying to go in. The only thing the police did was restrain the parents from going and saving their own children. They cuffed parents while they just left this active shooter in the building with 9-year-olds. And some of them could have been saved in the meantime. Some of them bled out in that time that they didn't. But they had, within 3 minutes, they were ready, according to the research by the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training Center.
Okay.
Yeah, it is pretty devastating.
Huge failure on their part.
Yeah, and that Pete Arando, he, the chief, who was the chief, at one point he's like, "Oh, I didn't know I was in charge." Like, what? And then he had been elected to the, what is it? City council. Yes, I was just gonna say Leslie Knope. What did she? City council, and they finally talked him into stepping down, but I can't believe they even gave him paid leave. They are protecting this guy like crazy.
Well, I remember the citizens came in and they're like, if he's not going to show up, you need to let him go. Like, he doesn't need to be here. He's not going to show up to answer to any of us.
Yeah. Well, and also if he took leave, then he was not going to lose his job, but they didn't have to give him leave. He wanted it, and then they could say no, and then he just wouldn't have a job anymore. And people begged to let that happen. Like, he did not need that day off.
Yeah, but he was a coward and ran.
I'm just confused on the statement that he didn't know that he was in charge. Does it mean like they don't have a timetable or something? Because you should be having a timetable, like especially in high offices like those.
Absolutely. He was chief of police in the whole city. Of course, he was in charge of the scene.
I don't know who he was waiting on. Like, the longer you wait, the worse the situation is going to get.
Yeah, it's like they waited for, I guess that, like, in my mind, I feel like he waited thinking that the shooter was going to kill himself, because a lot of mass shooters do that. And so that they wouldn't have to do anything. But in the meantime, they left 19 children to be terrorized. And the video shows, we haven't seen it, but the footage shows that they could hear the children screaming and crying. And they just stood there for over an hour and did nothing. By the way, you don't need the chief of police to tell you to go rescue children from a gunman. You don't need that.
It was an emergency. Yes.
Yeah.
One of them tried to act, and they took away his weapon and detained him, because his wife was in the building.
Yeah, and one woman, she actually broke into the building and rescued not only her 2 kids, but 2 classrooms full of children. And they have tried to keep her quiet and suppress that incident, because it makes them look so bad. But that's what happened.
But they are.
Yes. Terrible. And so after this report came out that they could have taken out the shooter before he ever entered the building, and all of these other failures, the mayor, Don McLaughlin, is rejecting the response assessment and said a Uvalde Police Department officer saw someone outside, but was unsure of who he saw, and observed children in the area as well. Ultimately, it was a coach with children on the playground, not the shooter. That is 100% not true. And the videos, like from the body cam footage, from the school footage, everything shows that they could have taken this shooter out, and they failed to do that.
Yeah, they should. Okay.
Yeah. I can't believe that the mayor and the governor are protecting this man, though.
Can't either, especially after all the citizens came out against him. The citizens want blood.
Yeah, they deserve it.
Yeah.
Oh man. And Khally, you said there was also a mass crime against children near you. I guess we're starting off the show sad.
Yeah, it is very sad on the Southern African side, because apparently in South Africa, not in my country, it's a neighboring country. There's a tavern called Enyobeni Tavern. It's a popular spot for youngsters between the ages of 15 and 20. So they were having a party as usual, like the teenagers, how they behave and how they do their things. So on the news, they say they wanted to close, but the students, it's actually the students from different schools who decided to have a get together. So when he wanted to close, they refused to go out, and then they suspect that he sprayed something. It's still under investigation though, but he sprayed something, and 21 kids died.
Oh my goodness!
So the one who gave, sorry.
What do they think it might have been? What kind of substance?
No one is saying something, because it's now sort of like it's the state against the people. People wants to know what really went wrong there. And then the state is like any other country, they keep on saying, we are still investigating. So they are investigating that substance which he sprayed. But they did have some survivors.
This was a nightclub, correct?
It's sort of like a nightclub, but I wonder how they allowed kids in, because it was kids between the ages of 18 and 21 who died. And when I saw the videos of that place, it was packed. Like, I don't know if they don't have numbers of like occupants there, or they should have just controlled people who were going there, but they decided to let everyone in. And at the end of the day, there was a mass killing, because they had mass for those children. It was sad indeed, because I saw the chief police, he was also crying, because it was like one of his kids, losing children, especially 21 children. It was just too much for everyone. And people are now protesting that they want that tavern to be closed, because
it's called the Inobini Tavern. I'm gonna
type it here. Let me type the spelling.
In East London in South Africa.
Yes. I'm going to type
Yeah, it says that there were 12 girls and 9 boys. I'm looking at the article right now. 12 girls and 9 boys, and 17 were pronounced dead on the scene while 4 others died at the hospital or being transported.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, everything else, they got it from a girl called Lolly. She said she's Lolly. That I wonder how she escaped, but she managed to escape when everyone was dying, just like that. She witnessed her friends just falling down and, you know, being still instantly. So
that's it.
I'm still wondering what chemical they used here.
Yeah. It does say here that a stampede has been ruled out because the bodies didn't show any serious injuries. So
there were no visible wounds, actually.
And there's no arrests. There's no suspects. This is bizarre and horrifying, and why they were all 13 to 17 years old when the club was 18 and up.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Like, don't they have security guards to check the IDs and everything? That's what made me wonder, like, how did the 13-year-olds get into that place in the first place? So
it says you know, this one guy was ordering drinks at the club, and it was crowded when suddenly the doors were closed and some type of chemical agent, such as tear gas or pepper spray, was released into the air, and that there was no way out. There was no chance to breathe. But so out of 21 were killed, but many others survived. Is that correct?
Yes, they survived. But from my view, I think they should be taken for some medical attention, because we don't know what they inhaled, and maybe it might harm them in the near future or something.
Yes.
So they all need to go for a medical checkup, because it's really horrific that they died and everything.
Yeah. We'll definitely keep an eye out for the results of the toxicology report, because that is very bizarre, you know, to be like, and that sounds like homicide, mass homicide, since they were locked in and then this agent was released.
Yes. Why did he lock the door? Maybe he was supposed to spray whatever that he sprayed and then let them run for their lives or something, than locking the door. Locking the door means he wanted to kill them.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that is really terrible. So I don't think that we will talk about the Highland shooter just yet. But I did bring up Britney Griner. If you don't know Britney Griner, is that how you say her last name? The women's basketball star who's been imprisoned for 142 days in Russia now. What happened was she's pled guilty. So she's been awaiting trial. They kept pushing it back, obviously for negotiation purposes. And they got her, they have her charged for major trafficking charge of drugs, which could end her 10 years in jail, when what it was one vape cartridge they found, and it was less than 1 gram of oil, of marijuana oil. But they had her, she pled guilty. And in the article from Sputnik, it said over and over again that it was completely her decision. But a guilty verdict was a foregone conclusion in the Russian legal system, because it's entirely stacked against defendants. And it's like, I believe I read somewhere it was 95 to 99% like guilty finding. Like, if you are getting charged in Russia, you are going to jail. That means they think you are guilty. So they've been trying to speed this up, because they can't do a prisoner swap until she's officially charged and gone through her trial. So they've really been just putting her through the ringer. And the thing, this is, you know, Black Lives Matter. This has been so frustrating, because she's a Black lesbian woman. She's almost 7 feet tall. And it's like, if she was LeBron James, like we would be doing more to get her home. She's a 2-time gold medalist. She's a 7-time All-Star. She's an incredible player. And she plays half of the year in Russia. So that's when they got her, when she came back from leave in the United States. They actually pay her more to play in Russia than we pay her. She wins gold medals for us and they pay her $1 million a season over there.
That's too much. Okay.
Yeah. So some of the prisoners they've talked about swapping her for is one, meaning we would trade one of our Russian prisoners to get her back. There's a Russian national, Victor Bout, who's been in prison in the United States since 2012 on a 25-year sentence for conspiring to sell weapons to people who said they planned to kill Americans. And prosecutors called him among the world's most successful and sophisticated arms traffickers. He is known as the Merchant of Death. So they want to trade for the Merchant of Death, ostensibly for our a woman basketball player who didn't really commit any crimes.
Totally equal charges. Totally.
Yeah. And then there's another American in prison who's been waiting, and it's Paul Whelan. And he served 2 years of a 16-year sentence on espionage charges that he's denied. He's in Russia. And would it be fair for us to leave him there before Griner? I mean, should he come home? Hopefully maybe we can swap for both or whatever. I mean, that 25-year-old sentence is almost up anyways. I don't know. It's
25 years. He's only been in since 2012, you said?
No. So the Victor Bond guy. Oh, yeah. Yes. You're right. 2012. You're right.
I mean,
that's not very long. Yeah. And he definitely wants to sell weapons to people who want to kill Americans.
Yeah, with a nickname like Merchant of Death, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So on the swapping, sorry, let me ask something. So when they are swapping these prisoners, is she going to be released on the American side, or she just comes to a home prison?
I mean, we wouldn't put her in prison. I'm certain of it. But it's hard to say, I'm not entirely sure how those prisoner swaps go, but, they're definitely using her as a bargaining chip because of the war. And, they want to try to use any Americans they can to curb as much American intervention as they possibly can. She recently handwrote a letter to President Biden that said, "I'm terrified. I might be here forever. Please don't forget about me." And that is just heartbreaking. I can't imagine what it would be like to be an American in a Russian prison for almost nothing.
For something that's totally legal.
That's why it's hell.
Yeah.
It's hell because you got to understand the language and everything, and how they do their things is actually terrifying. Yeah, it is terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, pretty much if they decide to arrest you, that means you're guilty. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're guilty or not. So the argument for her putting in the guilty verdict was so that she could apologize and take responsibility. What she ended up telling the courts was, it just must have ended up in my bag when I was packing in haste. I had no intention of doing this. I apologize. There's no intent. I admit that I made this mistake. So hopefully they're thinking that can get it down to 2 years instead of 10. But I mean, to even charge her for trafficking, and it's like half of one vape cartridge. That's,
I don't know who trafficking to.
Just for viewers to know, that is what this is. This is the size of that thing.
Oh.
That's how big it is.
I think it was for personal use, the size.
Right. And they arrested her for trafficking.
No, you can't traffic something like small like that. I think it was for personal use, maybe.
They were just looking for any reason to get an American arrest.
Yeah.
It's actually used as a political tool between countries. Like when you don't want to. You really have no reason to be. Like, all you're doing is playing basketball and having one little cartridge. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, and, people use it for all sorts of health benefits. I mean, for mental health, for fighting cancer. It literally fights cancer. Actually, later this summer, I will be having on some medical marijuana or weed activists. They think, to make it widely available for everyone. So that'll be August 5th. If you want to hear from them, we'll be doing a double feature between that group and a Hawaiian native to hear about some things that are going on in Hawaii. But yeah. I want
to know about that substance.
Well, so they consider it an international health crisis that so many countries withhold marijuana from the people because it is so beneficial. And I mean, they make a really good point. So you'll definitely want to check that show out. While we're still talking about Russia, recently Russia met with Foreign Minister Carlos Faria from Venezuela, and he said the U.S. dominance is no longer an absolute one. A new world is being born, and Russia is on the front line of this struggle. Today, this is reflected in Russia's special military operation to contain the expansion of NATO and counter its reckless policies that endanger Russia's security and European peace by encouraging the neo-Nazi government in Kyiv and its policy of genocide. He says it's an urgent matter and must be resolved before the imperialistic aspirations of the United States put humanity in even greater danger. So I can kind of agree with that, but you don't fight an imperialist by supporting an imperialist. You don't fight a country that is dominating the world by becoming the country dominating the world. There's and it's, that's just another country to go and side with Russia. And if you don't know, we have been terrible to Venezuela over the years. American interference has been one of the biggest problems of getting Venezuela stable, because we're constantly toppling the regime, because we don't want to see leftists capitalists don't want leftists to succeed. They don't want socialist countries to succeed. So they interfere in them, and they replace their leaders, and it's just, but then you shove it full of this Russian propaganda that they're stopping the expansion of NATO. Meanwhile, Sweden has decided to come out of 200 years of being a impartial government, and are like, you know what, we'll join NATO now because of Russia. So Russia's saying we're doing it to prevent the expansion of NATO. What they're doing is causing more people to join NATO. So he's doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's actually expanding because more people will be joining and everything.
Exactly. And it's as a direct result of Putin's, invasion to Ukraine. And the fact that they keep trying to peddle this, Nazi regime. Ukraine, 73% of their population elected a leftist president who was a former comedian. Like every country has a Nazi. We have more Nazis in our country.
His claim to fame was being an actor on a show where he became president on the show. That's what it was before he actually became president.
Yeah, well, he's a pretty funny entertainer, and just what an incredible job he's doing. Just and so brave. Somebody had mentioned, like, who would have thought a comedian would get out there and be one of the bravest leaders? And I'm like, I could see that. Have you ever done stand-up comedy? Because that shit is, excuse me, that stuff is terrifying. Yes, no cussing. I have to remind myself every show. But I mean, but for real, you never know what you're going to do once it comes to a moment like that.
Yes, that's true.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, following the NATO summit held in Madrid during the last week of June, praised NATO allies for transformative, far-reaching decisions made to adapt and advance the alliance. Those have included moves to address global climate change and food shortages caused by Russian aggression. And And this is what he described as the most serious security situation in decades. And I'm wondering, the food shortages I know has been spreading pretty badly to Northern Africa.
Yes, no, not just Northern Africa, even Southern Africa as well, because everything is just going up and up and up every day.
Yes, we have that as well, and inflation. And the thing is, they call it inflation, but they're making record profits here. It's not inflation here. It is a lie in order to price gouge us. And I saw Elon Musk made this post yesterday on Twitter that said, population on Mars is still 0. And I'm like, and yet there are millions of people here who you could help with your money through logistics to make sure that food gets to everybody in the world. Literally, we have enough food in the world to do that. And you want to talk about moving to Mars.
That he buries the fact that he had 2 more kids that no one knew about over the past couple months.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't hear about that?
No, I don't pay much attention to him, honestly.
One of the executives on him got her pregnant, and they had twins, and that was came out in the past couple of days.
Okay.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so he has 8 or 9 kids now.
What is he, a breeder?
Sounds like him and Nick Cannon are competing.
Well, they're not going to catch up to, was it Busta Rhymes? Was it Busta Rhymes or was it, no, from somebody from Wu-Tang?
Busta Rhymes has a lot of kids, but
I think somebody from Wu-Tang has 21 or 27.
I don't know. Okay, we've got breeding machines out there.
Yes, that's like a real thing. It's like a real, some men just go out there and are so obsessed with themselves that they go and try to make babies and get as many people pregnant as possible. There was that case recently, like in this year, that they found a doctor at a clinic where, who was doing like in vitro or like a sperm bank, was impregnating every woman with his own sperm.
Is it like 500 kids or something like that?
Something crazy like that.
It was out in California, correct?
I believe so.
And then who's going to take care of those kids? Like,
the women.
Are they serious about life?
Yeah.
Or they just going around impregnating girls and everything?
Well, so what in his instance, like these are people who maybe they are in couples and maybe the husband is infertile or it's just not working out. So they go to him to get, pregnant, to help getting pregnant. Okay. And he's just syringing himself in there, I guess, for lack of better term. I was going to say spurting, but that sounds gross.
That is gross. It's completely unethical.
Completely unethical.
So I don't know what happened to him. I don't know. He was old by that point, I believe. So most of the kids were grown and he was retired. So it's like, what can he do now?
Yeah, really.
Oh, well, what's that name called? Let me check something. Yeah, in Africa we had this one who died, and on his funeral they said like he was 28 years old with 21 kids.
Wow.
So like I was like, okay. So if you calculate one kid per year, it was like started at the age of 8. So he was popular, and then he made sure that every girl has his signature.
Everybody gets one. You get a baby. You get a baby. Everybody gets a baby. Like the Oprah baby given.
One more thing I wanted to say about Elon Musk, like he had recently one of his children came out as a trans woman, and they pretty much disowned their father because of that.
Who did?
One of his children.
Who?
One of Elon Musk's children. They came out as trans women, and they pretty much disowned him after that. Like they changed their name, and they don't want anything to do with him.
So the trans woman disowned Elon, or Elon disowned them?
The child disowned the father.
Oh, well, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
I don't blame her. He's not a great person. I don't understand this like bro mentality obsession with him. I don't get it.
People want to defend billionaires. Like, why? Like, they don't need your help.
Right. They don't need anybody to defend them.
Yeah,
they're not even paying you for that.
They got their billions of dollars that show them. Nobody
should be a billionaire.
Also, he withdrew his bid to buy Twitter. That's the last thing I want to say about him.
Yeah, goodbye, $1 billion. He just loses that. Okay. Oh, so did y'all hear about this? Georgia Stonehenge getting bombed?
I heard about that.
Yeah. So in Georgia, there's this, it's a Georgia guidestone, sometimes called the American Stonehenge. And it first appeared in rural Northeast Georgia in 1980. 6 19-foot tall or 5.8 meter granite slabs that form the monument and were covered in mysterious messages and impressively well aligned to various astronomical features. One hole in the stones even allowed sunlight to indicate which day of the year it was, for example. And what's weird is nobody really commissioned the guidestones. This guy, Robert Christian, who in turn represented a, quote, small group of loyal Americans, was interested in creating a monument that could act as a compass, a calendar, and a clock with instructions in 8 languages, providing vaguely new age, vaguely eugenistic guides for building and maintaining society. And they were intended to act as a foundational document for the survivors of some apocalyptic event. Isn't that a weird reason to build those?
Yeah, I think one of them was like they didn't want the population to be over 500 million, which even in the 80s that was above that. So I heard about that, and the conservatives have been applauding the destruction since it happened.
Yeah, they're trying to claim it was God, but I effing love science. Though that website came out with the video footage showing a person bombing it, and then the other people who went to inspect it, they're like, "Oh well, this one got bombed, so we should just tear the rest of it down because
it'll get rebuilt, probably
unstable reason." Well, we don't know who commissioned the monument, so
mystery. So that it could be mysteriously rebuilt. So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So if they said it was unstable, how did they commission it in the first place? Because we've got like health inspectors doing all that.
Nobody knows who commissioned it. It didn't go through the state. It just somebody built it one day. They just put it up, and the idea was that it would be strong enough to survive major catastrophes of astronomical and apocalyptic events, but it didn't survive one bomb. So I don't think they did a very good job when they built it in the first place.
They can rebuild it bigger, stronger.
Maybe they had like those, health officers instead of practitioners who just go on site and say, okay, it's fine, you can continue building.
Well, it's not even inside. It's just like 6 tall granite structures. Have you ever seen Stonehenge in the UK? Just those rock circles, those giant rocks. Okay. That's basically what it looks like. Just 6 giant rocks, 5.8 meters tall. That's it.
You want to pull a picture up of it so we can actually get an idea?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead and share a picture of that.
Okay. Over here. All right.
I think it's important to call it what it really is, which is domestic terrorism, because a lot of right-wing conservatives are like, oh, this is satanic, blah, blah, blah. They want to blow it up. And then somebody was like, it's rods of God, like as if God, as Zeus, like threw down some rod and made it explode, that it wasn't a bomb.
Okay, there it is right here.
Oh.
That's it.
That's what it looks like. That's all it was.
Yeah. And this made people so mad. They've been trying to have it removed for years. So finally.
Exactly. So there's no wrath of God here.
No.
It wasn't strong. And what's so satanic about that?
Because it related to astronomy, I guess.
Okay.
Who knows? I mean, it's really hard to say when it comes to Christian nationalists here in our country right now.
Yeah, because it's multilingual.
It's just someone wanted to bring it down.
Yeah.
Someone just wanted to bring it down. So,
yeah, well, it was in multiple languages, so they didn't understand every word on it, and that makes them uncomfortable. And they don't understand science, and they don't want other people to understand science, so that makes them uncomfortable. So it must be satanic. If God didn't build it or whatever, I don't know. I don't know what century they're living in.
The first.
But yeah, I don't know. Crazy stuff. And then, well, we can talk about the Highland shooting, but I think we're about to. Oh, there was a woman in Ukraine. I did want to talk about her before we moved away too far from Russia. There was a woman. Her name is Alex Marquette. She was a paramedic in Ukraine. And when the war first started, she was front lines, and she would wear a camera on her head and film everything she saw. And then they would sneak memory cards out inside of tampons that women would carry out so that people could get footage from the front lines. Well, she was taken as a prisoner of war for the last few months, and she's finally been freed, but they used her for propaganda purposes and forced her to say, whatever the Russian propaganda narrative is in order to continue to spin this to the public in Russia. And she says that Russians are the victims of constant extreme propaganda machine. And they are also fighting for world domination. So, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we heard it from Venezuela looking for a new world order.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
So they freed her with no exchange, or just they got what they wanted from her and they just let it go?
Pretty much. Yeah, that seems to be it. She's a very popular person in Ukraine, obviously. Yeah. She's become quite a hero.
Oh, maybe that's what.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then, gosh, I just hate, you know what? I hate to talk about shootings, but the other topics I have are the Prime Minister of Japan, or the former Prime Minister of Japan has been shot, and he has declared dead now.
Oh,
yeah. Did you hear about this?
Let me check.
Happened last night.
Yes, last night. So he was in Nara, Japan, and he was giving a speech to promote another candidate, and then somebody came up behind him and shot him twice from behind, and he died today. And Japan has very, very strict gun laws, so it's really hard to say how this happened.
Yeah, somehow they got that gun illegally. It's supposed to be like a shotgun type weapon.
They don't know where they got the bullets either. Apparently, bullets are even harder to get. They think they might have been homemade bullets.
Yeah, from right here is like it was pretty poorly made weapon. Yes. But there was, it's. I wouldn't say it's messed up. He wasn't really a great person because he tried to keep quiet about Japan's like war crimes and kind of.
Yes, he was the son of a prime minister. He was not the greatest. That's true. But I agree. So, but it is kind of shocking to hear about gun violence in Japan. I guess.
Yeah. Exactly. And they're saying he fired 2 shots at him. Like, how did they allow people to go into a rally with like weapons and everything? Because in Zimbabwe, when there's a rally or something, they make sure that everyone who gets in, like let's say it's a stadium, they normally use stadiums, they search each and every person. Like it's so strict that you can't just bring a weapon and get away with it. There'll be police everywhere. It'll be just like police everywhere. So you can't just get in with a weapon into that place.
Yeah. So, well, his name is Shinzo Abe.
Yes,
is how you pronounce it. And there was not very much security around him because like I said, the gun laws in Japan are really, really strict. I mean, you've got to go through tons of hoops just to get a hunting license. And in that event, I think you can't even like keep the weapon at your home. So for somebody to get a hold of a gun and the bullets, because they're both very heavily regulated, was pretty incredible. So, there's very little, do you want, there's a picture they have of him stalking the former prime minister.
I mean, is it an inside job maybe? Because if you're saying that there are regulations.
Yes, so there is a thought of that, because this was kind of a last minute decision to talk publicly. It wasn't in a public record of like what his movements were going to be. So it's likely somebody on the inside did tip this person off on where he was going to be in a lower security situation in order for him to get close enough to do it.
Yeah, because it requires professionals there, and obviously someone from the inside. An outsider cannot just come in with a gun and assassinate someone. So yeah, I think it was an inside job.
That's my first inclination, but I'm sure we'll find out more. They haven't released too much on, they haven't released much more, but if you want to go see the footage on NHK, that's a good website. They have the video footage. He was wearing a gray shirt and cargo pants and a white face mask.
Okay.
So it was handmade guns. So it doesn't look like they were bought.
Yeah, there's the idea that it was a 3D printed gun also, but a lot of 3D printed guns have been like backfiring and killing the people trying to use them. So
like one or two shots, if anything, off of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So the idea, they think that he killed him over political ideology and for nationalistic purposes. But we'll find out more as it comes up, and definitely follow up on that one as well. But that being said, I think we should go ahead and move on to our main topic of today.
Okay.
Which we will talk about pickup artists. So if you haven't been following, I've been doing a series called The Enemy is Woman into the Manosphere about the various groups online of these very patriarchal, misogynistic groups. They have incels, they have men's rights activists, we have pickup artists, various groups, but they all are pretty closely aligned on at least one thing, and that is everything that's wrong with the world is women's fault. They're actually in charge. Men are actually the oppressed ones, and women are good for nothing but sex and reproduction. So that is a thing that's going on. And pickup artists, now, a lot of people don't know this. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. They are men who teach each other how to manipulate and date rape women. There is no sincerity. These are extreme misogynists who believe women's value is in sex and reproduction only. They pick up artists, a lot of the bigger ones who make money from incels, often incels who want to find a way to be with women. They sell useless boot camps and scamming hopefuls out of thousands of dollars. And then they put them at risk of macing, arrest, harassment allegations, rape allegations. And many PUAs also, especially in the 2010s, were advocating for more hardcore techniques to break past what they call the last minute resistance, or a woman backing out of prospective sexual intercourse at the last minute, because according to them, the man in question is not as good looking as the woman would prefer. So what they would encourage them to do instead was, I don't know, manhandle the woman, or just expose yourself, or in other words, committing acts of legally defined sexual assault. The rise in the pickup artist seems to also accompany the rise of people not wanting to pair up with other people. So historically, the modern we'll call it a PUA. The modern PUA movement kind of started in the 70s after women got birth control during the sexual liberation movement. So that's kind of when hookup culture first started. And I would say maybe it wasn't as violent back then. It was definitely more like, oh, you're a liberated woman and blah, blah, blah. and, for the sexual revolution. But now it's more common for men to play the field and seek out casual sexual encounters before marriage, according to them, due to the existence of female hypergamy and Bateman's principle. Many men that are not physically blessed are having poor prospects out of casual sex encounters. So therefore, they have to learn these techniques to manipulate women into having sex with them. I was reading an article about how most of these techniques, and we're going to go over the techniques, are very, very similar to the same techniques that narcissists and sociopaths use on any of their victims. And I think it's important to note, like, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, it's a little cheeky. Let me think of Barney from How I Met Your Mother, who, by the way, is a terrible person. He's a terrible character.
But coercion and tricks to get women to sleep with him, like saying he's from the future or pretending he's his own clone or something like that. And that's I mean, and people, they laugh at it, but like, that's a lie. That is, that's a scam. And while some of those are outrageous, it still comes back down to the same thing, that if you are coercing somebody to have sex with you because you aren't being honest, that's gross. That is manipulation. And, depending on courts, could be considered rape because they did not agree to this terms of the conditions. But so one of the things to note about pickup artists is the ideology. They are a pro-patriarchal nationalism, especially the more hardcore ones. And they believe they need to defeat liberalism or feminism. They kind of use them in the same. So yes, that means there is anti-Semitism. So, and I'm going to go ahead and define patriarchal violence, or we'll call it PV. It's an interconnected system of institutions, practices, policies, beliefs, and behaviors that harm, undervalue, and terrorize girls, women, femme, intersex, gender nonconforming, LGBTQ, and other gender oppressed people in our communities. Patriarchal violence is a widespread, normalized epidemic based on the domination, control, and colonizing of bodies, genders, and sexualities happening in every community globally. PV is a global power structure and manifests on the systemic, institutional, interpersonal, and internalized level. It is rooted in interlocking systems of oppression. So obviously, it's not just an American thing. This is definitely a major American export. The UK, Australia, and Canada are really bad with this right now. Do you know, is it that way in Zimbabwe? Is this a big movement there? Or are you not sure yet? You haven't heard much about it, and then you'll find out.
In Southern Africa, we have something called men's conference. Like, they decide to meet and, have a discussion on how to get women and how to actually terrorize them, because they've got that thing that being the man of the house, sort of. So if you can't get that via being educated more than your wife or something, they actually terrorize ladies. So they do meet and have some discussions along those lines. So, and now, I've seen some television programs that they're addressing it in different ways, how this men's conference things work and what they actually discuss, having 10 women at the same time and making sure that they don't know each other, pregnating 7 girls at the same time. It's really horrible what they plan, because most of the cases, the people that go to those men's conference are the ones that are not educated more than they are women. So they feel threatened, and then at the end of the day, they devise ways of getting to those ladies. Even if it's violent, they just enjoy that.
How do you even have time for that? Like, I'm barely taking care of myself, and I feel exhausted all the time just taking care of myself. Like, how do you do string along 7 people?
Well, and on top of it, they have these conferences. They have the Manosphere where they spend half their time online telling each other. Like,
Yes.
Get a productive hobby.
Yes.
Productive hobby.
Well,
yes, instead of planning something productive, they'll actually be planning that. And then, someone will come. We've got so many cases of domestic violence because of these men's conference things. Because at the end of the day, he'll come and tell you that, no, I am the man of the house. You should listen to me when I say this. You should do this. And trust me, it's not only like domestic. It has actually spread to even theater circles, whereby like it's difficult to be a female producer because you can't tell them what
they do use the patriarchal violence in order to maintain that structure. You will be in actual harm if you are going against that. And I'm curious. Well, I'm curious about maybe some police response, but we'll get to that in just a minute. There's a blogger. You probably are you on TikTok?
At times.
Yeah. There's really one of the more popular pickup artists of all times. He actually was kind of one of the main founders of Return of Kings, a specific group. And that's the one where they became very politically active as well. His name is Rush Valazida or Valazida. I'm sorry. Rush Valazida or Rush V. This guy actually is pro-rape. He thinks that as long as it happens in a home that you should be able to rape women, because really, I'm trying to find. Okay, here's his quote. Make rape legal if done on private property. I propose that we make the violent taking of a woman not punishable by law when done off public grounds. If rape becomes legal under my proposal, a girl will protect her body in the same manner that she protects her purse and smartphone. After several months of advertising this law throughout the land, rape would be virtually eliminated on the first day as it is applied. Because it would be eliminated because it's been redefined. That's what it means. Yeah, literally. And that's actual. He tried to host pro-rape rallies back in 2014. I don't know if you remember this, Zach, when we were living up here and word got out, and I was telling you about it, but luckily enough people found out and it got shut down. They were scared of us. They were scared. They're like, we are not allowed to meet and talk about raping women. Like,
good.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you're scared. You should be scared.
Go hide back under your rock you came from.
That guy won't hide anywhere. He gets on every podcast ever. Like, I saw one, he was on an Australian one. And like, if you go on his show, he brings women on there just to degrade them and tell them to shut up and it's not their turn to talk and blah, blah, blah. And then he was like on somebody else's show and he was just making this same stupid point. And they're like, you know what? No, you don't get to make your point. Mute his mic. I'm done. I'm sick of hearing this guy talk. Like, he doesn't let other people talk. You don't get to talk. How's that feel? You like that? Yeah. Oh, you're muted. You can't hear.
Nah, you were crying.
It was pretty good.
Because here in Africa, most people use the Bible. They hide behind the Bible that women shouldn't say anything. They'll quote verses that support whatever that they want to say. And
yes,
it only applies when it's convenient for them every time. So they actually hide behind the Bible, especially people who go to church. Like, it's difficult to deal with those because there's the Bible and then there's reality. So at the end of the day, it becomes difficult to deal with those.
Well, so that's one of the things. So we're looking at the rise of the right. And right now, the Christian nationalists have moved into a very prominent position in our country. But what people don't realize is Trump had major backings from the male supremacist movement, which is what we're discussing, the white supremacist movement, which those go together really well. And you'll hear in some cases how this patriarchal violence is definitely one of the ways. And then the evangelical movement, especially the family, which is all men. So for the Christian nationalism, they also believe women should be oppressed. So all we had left was white supremacists to be like, you know what? We don't need women up here doing this. We can do all the oppression ourselves. So now we have these three united groups, the Christians, the racists and the misogynists, and they all agree on misogyny together. So we're in big trouble. It's probably very similar to what you're talking about.
So, yes, it's actually similar. Like, let me talk about maybe Zimbabwe. Yes, they believe that if a lady has got something to say, they'll quote the verse that she should go and ask her husband at home. So we do have churches that do not allow women to speak at all. Like, it'll be an all-man service, and you just have to sit down and listen and take whatever that they say. So at the end of the day, everyone believes Christians. And when it comes to real work now, to theater circles, it becomes difficult to deal with those, because it's actually your education that made you a manager. So at the end of the day, they have to listen to you, not to apply what they learned in church. Right. So at times, on my personal side, I end up telling them that you should go to school if you want to lead. Like, it's not always when you should just come here and say, I am the man. No, it doesn't apply everywhere. On this side, I have to tell you what to do because I am your boss. So if you want to be the boss, you should maybe start another thing or something else, not to be a boss at the wrong place at the wrong time. Right. So it's really difficult to deal with those, especially the ones that say we are Christians and everything.
Yeah, nobody, so this is, I have to change the theme song of this show, because the one I chose, I found out as a Christian band, and I'm pretty, I grew up Christian, but at this point I'm pretty anti-religion in general. Especially the Abrahamic religions, I feel have been extremely problematic and led to a lot of just terrible atrocities in the world, but especially Christianity. I mean, they had a whole industry of inventing torture devices, and those people, it still exists. That's what was used to keep chattel slavery and, Leopold II and just terrible, terrible things. So I'm definitely not going to represent a Christian band. It just sucked because that song was definitely not Christian. It was called One Girl Revolution, and it was in the movie the Reese Witherspoon blonde lawyer. Okay. The blonde lawyer movie.
Legally Blonde?
Oh, yeah, Legally Blonde. Yeah. I thought, I don't know how you said it, but yeah. And so it was a pretty great song, but we can't do it. Today I played, if you weren't familiar with the song, it was a song called Army of Me by Bjork. But I'm not sure we're going to stick with that one. So we'll see. If you are listening and you have original music that you do want to submit, by the way, definitely get in touch with me. It is the halfway mark. So if you are just tuning in, this is In Other News. I'm the host, Rachel Bloomstrom. Today, I'm joined by Zach Byrd and Khally Sibanda, and we are currently discussing pickup artists. So, yeah. So I thought, why not, before I read too many more terrible quotes from these guys, let's figure out what are their tactics. So I should mention that anytime somebody seems too smooth or too good to be true, it's raising red flags, like, go with that gut feeling. Don't ignore it. They are likely a pickup artist, or they have been trained by one. My cousin and I, we were both in the military, and around the same time, there was a couple of books, The Game, which was very popular. I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, that would get passed around. And especially in the Navy, when I got out, I found out it's one of the branches that could hold on to this lifestyle the easiest, because we're in total institutions out on ships. And so they had, like, for example, a standing bet on my ship that every new girl who got there, who was going to sleep with her, who would get to sleep with her first. And it was always like all of the women on the ship. It was a game. But so, like narcissists and sociopaths, a pickup artist is all about using and exploiting others for personal gain. So this is not, most of these people aren't trying to have relationships. They're trying to have numbers. They're trying to win. They want to wear down your defenses and then get what they want. Rush Valadiza, God, I always get it wrong. Rush V, as I mentioned earlier, he actually wrote a series of books called Bang Books, where he called himself a sex tourist and would travel to different countries in the world and put together the best tactics available in order to basically end up date raping women. So we're going to go through some of these tactics. And if you know anybody who's done these, or, you've had them done to you, one thing they want to do is isolate you from your group. Mystery, he was a pickup artist on VH1's show, The Pickup Artist. They actually made a TV show out of this, is how gross it is. But you want to make her more open to physical escalation, such as kissing. So when you get her away from your friends, that's how that happens. And the tactics of escalation are called keynoing. So this will start with, they'll start touching you on your hand or your arm or your shoulder and gradually like escalate places where they're touching you until hopefully they can be kissing you. So that's something that will generally happen very quickly. Another way to spot them. Have you ever seen a guy just walk up to a girl and like spin move them first? Like, oh, turn around, let me look.
Before you can tell them.
Yeah, and it's irritating.
Yeah, that's a pickup artist move. It's stupid. It's just,
because like, what are you doing? It feels funny. Yeah. Yes,
trying to make them dizzy.
Well, you try to, they want to unsettle their target. That's what you're called targets. This is a very heteronormative, patriarchal violence group of people. So one, it unsettles you, but two, now they get to check you out from all directions and you basically let them do it. Another tactic, they will pretend to be whoever you need them to be, just like sociopaths would. They'll try to find things in common or talking about the future with you, pretend to be romantic, maybe use statements of vulnerability. And the worst part is, like, this is a normal thing that people do, only they're faking it. So I'm sure, have you heard of negging? Negging is a cross between an insult and a compliment, or sometimes people call it a backhanded compliment. They use these to lower a woman's self-esteem or to make them self-conscious, and as a result, make her feel compelled to seek validation from him. So a couple of examples would be like, you and I would never get along. Our personalities are too different. Well, now the woman wants to be like, what do you mean? I can get along with anyone, is the idea. It can be especially dangerous when you're not aware, because they do seek out women with lower self-esteem. So those trauma histories or prior relationships with narcissists, if that is you, you need to be leery, because they are going to make comments that will put you back, kind of like conditioning, that'll put you back into that place and make you feel unsettled, and they want to bring you down to their level. Part of it is because they think that you're too uppity.
Yes, actually, I didn't know the word that it's snaking, but there are some comments like, how did you even get to that position? Like someone will look at you and ask you those funny questions like, how did you even get there? How did you achieve that? As if like you have to go through him to achieve something. Yeah. So they'll make sure that everyone...
And they try to make it sound playful too, right?
Yes. So it's actually disturbing every time when someone asks that, like, how did you do that? No, I had to do it because I can, and there's no need to go through via you to do something like that. So
yeah, well, but this is like, they want to say something that is almost a compliment. Like they might say something like, you are insanely cute, or you are ridiculously short, or something, like make you feel a little self-conscious, but make it sound like it's weird. It's a weird place. I feel like, I don't know, did any of your army buddies do that?
Not really.
No.
For my friends, like the ones I hang out with, they don't really do that. Like we went out to the bars, but it's mostly for dancing and drinking.
And then drinks and drinks and drinks and drinks.
Actually, good choice.
Yeah, I drank with those guys once or twice.
I remember you slapped one of them.
Oh, I don't remember that. Did he have it coming?
He did.
Okay,
He
good.
totally deserved it.
What happened?
I think he tried to grab your ass.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I told her she will slap you, man.
And I did. I used to be a big slapper in my early 20s. I don't know. It was a phase. There was actually a short time period, just to get off topic. There was a short time period in my early 20s where people would buy me drinks to slap them at one of the bars I hung out with at. Because I would slap them. They wanted it. They'd come to me and they're like, I need a good slap. And I'm like, are you sure? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, here's your beer. And I'm like, here's your slap.
I don't kink shame.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. They liked it. I'm good at slapping, but I do remember one time, like I accidentally caught somebody with like the butt of my hand and I rocked his jaw and he was like all bruised. I felt really bad after that one.
Hit the sweet spot and knock him out.
Almost. I about knocked him out. Definitely clapped somebody's ear before. That's not good.
And right there on the chin, kind of right over the brain.
Yeah, like I told them, don't move, and go and move, and they get scared last second. You got to hold still if you want a good slap. All right, I'm gonna
either get an ear or you get the chin. You don't want either of those.
Yeah, no, we want a good solid face slap. Leave you a nice little handprint. It feels good. You know, that was also at the same time that Fight Club had just come out, so everybody was all kind of riled up about Fight Club, and I think it just kind of reminded them of that. I don't know, kind of weird. But back to pickup artist moves. Another thing that they might do is like if you're with a group of friends, they'll come and put down one of your friends. They might be like, is she always this demanding? Or how do you guys put up with her? Or how do you roll with that one? Yeah. And it's weird. Like it's so, I guess it's to make the one girl they're hitting on feel more valuable than the friend, or especially if the friend is saying like, hey, there's something wrong with this guy. And you're like, get this one. How do y'all put up with that? You know what I mean? I believe you are frozen, Khally.
Yeah, I said her network is tripping. I'm with the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we'll be here. Bad boy vibes. Another thing that you might notice is pickup artists will avoid giving you any personal info. They'll want to make everything about you. And partially that is because they don't, they're putting on a show.
They want to make you feel important, so they just want to know all about you.
Yeah, but also they don't want to accidentally reveal who they really are.
Yeah.
They are trying to appear as a specific character to you, whichever one they think might work. So after they have been doing that Kino escalation, that touching escalation, they might use some statements of empathy to diffuse a situation when their attempts make you feel uncomfortable. So if they've been like slowly like moving too fast, then they'll just say something like, oh, sorry, I'm a big hugger, or sorry, I just got caught up in the moment, to make it seem like they're reading your cues, and they are, but they're not going to stop. They're just, they're going to, and if they apologize, then they're like, oh, okay, well, he means it. He's fine. They will also flirt with others to make you jealous. They believe in the power of social proof to persuade and coerce. So like they might flirt with a bartender in front of a date, or talk about a lot of exes, or make up stories about being hit on. And the thinking goes, if many people desire and want them, then anyone should. They're trying to make themselves seem higher value. And I do realize these are all specific pickup artist techniques. These are things that they will teach in the workshops and whatever. But a lot of these are also techniques that, like I said, narcissists and sociopaths use. So it's not going to exclusively be to just men, but for the purpose of The pickup artist, the purpose is always the same, to win the game.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
Here, maybe if you turn your video off for a minute so it can catch back up. So your audio can get back caught up.
All right. So I'm sorry. What was the last thing you said?
Yeah. So I was just talking about how they think, they want to make themselves higher status. Oh, yes. And then, so these can be techniques, you can have a woman narcissist that you're dating and you notice that they're just constantly talking about how others want them and things like that. Like these are red flags in all people who are flirting with others to make you jealous. Like,
yeah, that would make me jealous. That just make me exhausted and want to leave.
Yeah. I mean, like once in a while, like if you're with somebody and they might be like, oh, somebody hit on me today, but you've been together for like 6 months or whatever. That might be innocent. But if like you're on a first date and they're like
constantly bringing it up, like, every time I go out, guys are hitting on me, but
yeah. I mean, and who knows? Maybe it's true, but like bringing it up, like you don't need to. Well, for their purposes, for pickup artists, it's to seem like a higher status person, like to make themselves a trophy, which is that's called prizing. They want to make themselves a prize. So that's the purpose of that. But narcissists do it just for self.
I'm getting kind of like a reverb from you. I don't know what that is.
Oh, I wonder if it's from Khally, her interruption.
Maybe.
I don't know. I've got good sound here on the radio.
She's gone. Wait, did she drop out?
I
don't see her on the live stream.
I see her empty page. Maybe she should log out and log back in. Yeah.
Okay. So so there's a lot of methods that they use. Most of them are, all of them are underhanded. It sounds off.
My audio is okay.
Khally, maybe you should log out and log back in because we can't understand you. I think it just the connection got messed up and corrupted. So, so going back to the pickup artist, one thing to remember is it is a game because they are trying to get a girl to flirt is a game in and of itself.
Do they keep scoring this somewhere, or do they like have to?
Some of them do.
Board? Okay.
Some groups do. Some groups absolutely do. Like I said, there were a group of men on one of my ships who did that. I mean, you read how I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. That's basically like his book of prestige, somehow to be also as gross as possible. I never understood that. He was so gross, Max Tucker.
He was. And there's a lot of poop stories in there.
There was a lot of puke and poop stories. There was
we all have a poop story, but I want to write a book about him.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of poop stories. Yeah, that book was like a combination of like poop depravity and pickup artist depravity.
And they turned it into a movie, I believe.
Yeah, I heard it was terrible.
I didn't see the movie.
Yeah, I didn't either. So when we're talking about making themselves higher status, they have DHV, which is demonstrating higher value. And that means it could be a little challenging because women do value different things, but the top three that they consider are health, wealth, and fun. So they always want to make themselves seem like they are fun and wealthy, and in good health, which includes mental health. They're going to try to hold back the crazy, but obviously And one of the ways to do that is by sarging. And by sarging, that means you go out into the field and put the concepts to work. You can do it in a group or solo, but the whole idea is to get over the fear of rejection. And remember that it doesn't matter. We don't actually care about these women. This is about the goal, about getting what you want. So you've got to practice so you can get good at it. Because in order to be more successful, you have to seem laid back and casual. You got to act like you couldn't care less. And they, like I said, they can take on different personas. All right, Khally, you back? Maybe. Oh no.
Maybe her router restarted because it's almost 2 a.m. over there.
Yeah, it's really broken up.
Thank you.
That's pretty funny sounding though.
You can't hear me.
Not really. I hear some words every once in a while.
Maybe restart your router.
Yeah.
Don't know what else it could be.
Can you hear me?
No, not really. Yeah. So, okay. Okay, I'm going to... Yeah. So one of the other things that... So one of the things that they will do is they want to make you believe you're special. So that goes back into the, not telling many details about themselves as one of those reasons. Now,
by the girls.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And that's another reason why they might insult your friends. Because they want you to think, oh, clearly you're more special than them. So now here's where it gets, for me, strange. The push and pull method. And it's metaphorically, you'll pull someone close to you and then push them away. But you can also do it physically. I had a guy one time who was hitting on me, and then all of a sudden he just kind of pushed me, and I was like, what are you doing?
Like push hard or like
yeah, he pushed me away from him.
Like you're about to fight?
No, it was like playfully, and he's like, I'm just kidding, come back. Or it was like, oh, get out of here, I don't want to do that. No, come back. And I was like, why are you pushing me? Why are you touching me? It was weird. And I thought it was weird at the moment, but I didn't really say anything. And then a friend of mine goes, that guy's treating you like crud. And I was like, oh yeah, I couldn't put my finger on what's so weird here. And so that moment's just stood out for me for so long now. But so they might also push by demonstrating interest or attention. And then they'll pull back by disqualifying yourself as a potential partner. So, they might be like, oh, you're incredible. But I'm really, not looking to date right now, trying to pull back a little, seem more mysterious. That also makes them seem more casual. But these things, in order to be successful or to have the impact, they have to happen in quick succession. So, let's see. It says, one of the PUA says, a woman makes romantic decisions based on emotions, not logic. If you can make her feel strong emotions, you'll capture her attention. In most cases, you'll be more interesting to her than the serious guy who could give her the world. If you're just supplying positive emotions, she tends to find this boring and predictable. A woman prefers the emotional roller coaster of not knowing whether she can have a specific man. And that is not true. That is exhausting. And that is, the hot and cold tactic women use as well. Like,
like saying like guys are completely logical all the time, which we are not. We're all ruled by our emotions. Like everyone's ruled by their emotions.
Yeah, and it's a spectrum, you know? And emotions can be logical. You can have emotions about logic.
You can.
I have emotions about how people think they're applying logic, but clearly never took a logic class. And then they're going to sit here and try to apply it, and they're doing it wrong. That gives me emotions. That gives me, Khally's having so much trouble.
Sorry, Khally.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah. So if you, and I can't remember what this guy's name is. I'm trying to wait till I get to the bottom of it because he did this whole section on push and pull. He says, if you haven't gotten her attention or interest, then you can try to manufacture it by, pushing or pulling in another way. If she's pulling, you can push by giving up some power in the relationship also. So, this is all like, this is the gamiest of the games, I think. But they want to maintain this balance. If you are overreaching to a girl, she's feeling suffocated, you can pull to balance the dynamic of the relationship. You can also pull when she's pushing to attempt to generate more investment when she's pushing. So these are people who, sorry, Khally, you can just listen for now. Hopefully, maybe it'll clear up soon.
I mean, she's contacted from another country. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah. During the theater, I know we had some problems. So I wonder if it's like a timing issue, if the internet
is going on.
Oh, did you hear in Canada, this afternoon, all the internet went out, including on banking systems. I don't have all the details right now. I got the notification as I was driving up here and I didn't get a chance to look at it. But yeah, another Friday and another massive issue in the world. Wonderful.
It happens. I mean, it's happened here before. Like we've had outages, like because a lot of it goes through AWS. So, like if one of their data banks go out, like our data centers go out, we lose a lot of functionality with credit cards, banking, and other things. I mean, sometimes we can go off from the West Coast, but most of it is in Virginia.
What is AWS?
It's Amazon Web Service.
Does Amazon own that too?
They own a lot.
Oh, it's like
they're the leaders in cloud computing right now. Like Microsoft is kind of catching up, but Amazon had a head start with that.
But that's like business wise, though, right? Not.
It's business, personal. I mean,
I thought Google was first in the. Okay.
No, cloud.
I'm talking out of my.
Yeah, cloud computing. Amazon's pretty much the leader right now.
Okay. Just for not me, but probably other people who don't. What exactly do you mean when you say cloud computing? Obviously, I know.
So when I'm thinking about cloud computing, like. So people don't have like their servers are on premises. So they do like they'll go to use AWS as a service. So they'll have data centers where they can set up their servers like 2012, 2016, 2019 servers, Windows servers. So they can run their businesses without having to actually pay $20,000 for a terabyte or 100 terabyte.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Now that we went out into the cloud servers, let's come back to the terrifying world of sociopaths, narcissists, and pickup artists.
Yeah.
Teasing is a negative verbally. So it's a positive non-verbally. So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. This can also be similar to negging. Like you're so adorably annoying, or you look interesting. Like interesting, is that good or bad? Like you were attractive until you said X. That a great looking dress. I'm not sure about the shoes though. Literally, I've heard guys say stuff like this. And like, I heard guys on my ship say this to other women. And I was like, what do you know about shoes? Shut up.
I mean, a lot of guys are sneakerheads, but that's totally good. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, you know, like this one girl, she had khaki boots on with her outfit. And he's like, I don't know, maybe they should have been black. And I'm like, maybe you should shut up.
It's called accessorizing.
They looked fine. They looked great. It was just, you know, trying to keep a conversation going. And it was, I didn't realize like it is to kind of create that unsettled and like validation seeking, like, well, I want him to think I'm good, you know? The classic, we totally should not be doing this while physically keynoting her, escalating physically. We shouldn't be doing this while I do this to you. You're so hot, but thankfully I'm a moral rock. Whatever. We should totally grab coffee, provided you're not a psychopath. These are some great lines, right? Yeah. I should totally take your number, provided you're not a secret psychopath that's going to text 27 messages past midnight.
Is that a line people actually use? Wow.
Yep. Oh, you are ridiculously adorable. Yep, we got that one. So, yeah, these are. I have heard these.
Work with people like what? Like,
there are some. Yes, there is studies that show that there are some success, particularly for those who are more vulnerable to narcissists. Like talking about people with self-esteem issues, which is a lot of women. Because we're taught to have self-esteem issues, particularly groomed in American society by, you know, magazines that were always like, oh, we don't look good enough. So now if we're having these things questioned, it can have some results. It's gross results. It's not a good thing to do. It's a complete psychological manipulation, especially since they are doing it on purpose. But it can be, some of these can be successful. You know, like convincing girls you're not like other girls, which is why, you know, a lot of like, I think one of my favorite groups is sounds like you're not like other girls, but okay. So girls who start saying that, like, I'm not like other girls and seeking this male validation, those are exactly the ones this works on. Because yes, because they want to feel special. And the truth is, like, we're all women, you know, and I don't know, like separating yourself from the group. It's like, that's what they do. Like, that was the very first thing we talked about, right? We want to separate them from the group of friends, like prey, because they're weaker on their own. When you get a woman, same thing. Even if it's just metaphorically separated from the group, it's gonna give your sway more power over them. The structured games they use, they only work in the beginning for beginners, and they're to like gain confidence and learn to read women. So those include like pre-planned icebreakers and talking points, but you know, that's usually really stiff. That's usually when you're like early stages of sarging. Talking about being casual, they want to be non-reaction seeking. So a big wrong thing is to care too much about an interaction, because who cares? They are just fish, right? So again, it's important to remember that these are tactics not of people trying to connect. These are people trying to get something out of you. Situational openers, like praised, and these can be praised and criticized by PUA. So depending on how rapey they are, you know, because some people go to these workshops thinking genuinely like, I'm just, you know, like I'm not good looking enough. Like they really do take advantage of other men who are wanting to do better and wanting to find a partner. And those are the easiest guys to spot that they've been through pickup artist training, because they're so terrible at it, because they are like also being authentic. But once they've been through too much, then they're like, oh, I'm pulling. That's what they call it. I'm pulling. Pulling. Like I'm pulling women in. Yeah. So some tried and true openers. The humor opener, like, is that alcohol? For shame. Drinking isn't allowed here. Isn't that clever, Mr. Fedora? For shame. Please don't ever say for shame. That's for friends. That's not a pickup line.
So I've used it like among like me and you, but I don't.
Yeah.
I want to say to people I don't know because it sounds weird.
Yeah, you don't want one of the first things you say to a person to be for shame, unless it like actually really works in the moment. But having it canned is, especially in this example, is that alcohol for shame. Drinking isn't allowed here to be used in a club setting. I would just roll my eyes. There's the stop and shock. I just all these tactics just have. It's a whole vocabulary, it's a whole world. That an example of that is, excuse me, I just have to tell you something. So whatever it is, hopefully you have something by the time you get them to stop and listen. The observational opener, which sounds something like, oh wow, it's like the view over at this table. Yeah, you mean because we're women sitting around talking? Is that what you mean? That's so clever.
No, it's more like the craft.
Yes. I have always been told I look like the scary one in the craft, Faroosa Balk. So
that and Nev Campbell, like
yeah, and you're breaking up too, and they are both in it. So there is the inadvertent, the opinion opener, which involves the pickup artist asking for a female opinion. Like, because I've gotten this one a few times. Like, can we get your female opinion? Like, does my friend look handsome? So this is wingman helping a young PUA by bringing somebody in. And I said, no. I say, well, why do you ask? There's really no good answer though, because the whole point is to just get you talking.
So it's like,
I guess the best answer would be like, I know this tactic, Mr. Pickup Artist, try it elsewhere, go by. That would be the best tactic.
Or just walk away.
Like look at them, look them both up and down, and then just like turn. Drink really loudly. Or just like drink it really loudly and stare at them until they go away. I don't know.
Or their entire existence. Just crush their soul.
Yeah. Can you make them more uncomfortable than they wanted to make you? The inadvertent opener is designed to make catching your attention seem like a misunderstanding. An example of this is, excuse me, 2 beers, please. Oh, you don't work here. I couldn't tell since you're not wearing a uniform and blah, blah, whatever. Yeah, they do that. That's a common one. Like those are, the reason that some of these are common is because they're easy to remember and they don't have to remember all the other stuff later. And they're relying on the fact that they might be charming enough afterwards to keep the banter going. One of my favorite ways to spot a pickup artist is by a choice they make called peacocking. So peacocking is they will make strong clothing style choices. Like you may remember Mystery, as I mentioned before, from VH1, and he used to wear that big stupid hat and like I guess boas. Like I've seen guys with feather boas on.
Kind of look like Doflamingo.
Maybe, yeah. I guess that's. I didn't know that's what it was at the time. Yeah, Doflamingo looks like a straight up pickup artist in his outfit. Absolutely,
he look like Elton John, but but that big boy he had and those shoes. Like,
that's So like they wanted to have. They also recommend aggressive cuts and pattern fabrics. Add a few pieces of jewelry. I don't know, maybe a giant clock on your chest.
The Flavor Flav method.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't even have to be. It's just to get attention. So those guys, like, You could just be like, here's your dose of attention. It's not good. Goodbye. But yeah. So they also, if they think a woman is kind of on to them, what they will do is reframe. So they're, worried that women are testing them, not trying to get to know them. So to get out of it, they will reframe it and put the pressure back on her. Like this example is kind of playful, but a girl accuses a guy of hitting on her. And instead of walking away red-handed, like, I don't know why he would, unless he's just super easily embarrassed, is to be, should I be, like just turning around the one and the two in the conversation. Who's the one asking the questions? And that's a tactic that is also great in sales, by the way. Which sales, if you don't know, is really high in sociopaths. So if you're not catching on, these are not honest techniques. These are not honest tactics. These are not ways to get to know people. If you're listening and taking notes, like
you're trying to sell a product, and that product is you.
Yes. Yeah. They're trying to sell themselves as a prize in order to get the sex out of the machine or whatever. Out of the reproductive machine. So we're close to done. There's a lot of this stuff, isn't there?
And it had tons of shows too. I was thinking, I remember watching a few months back, Cody Co. Him and his girlfriend, like they were watching one because there was a pickup artist show where like they were kind of coaching the people from like the background, giving them tips like while they're at a club trying to pick up women.
Yeah.
And him and his girlfriend kind of ragging on them because they were ridiculous and kind of pathetic.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Like instead of just like, working on yourself a little bit. So rather than like, I don't know, getting actual hobbies with all of this spare time and money that they used on these pickup artist boot camps, like they dedicate themselves to remembering how to not be themselves. Like, kind of how Hitch did. And like Hitch was a really popular movie with Will Smith, if you remember. And
James.
Yeah. And I kind of like that the point at the end, they finally learned their lesson, like, oh, maybe being authentic is better. But in the meantime, like nobody apologized to any of the women.
No.
Nobody did. So there's research suggesting that dark triad traits can be helpful in short-term mating strategies. Go figure. Namely narcissism, Machiavellism, and psychopathy. They believe that women have a desire to be desired, and they are, so women are only turned on by being wanted. So you need to be sexually assertive, and this will increase your success with women 80%. So this is where they really start pushing those physical, aggression and get more and more aggressive.
Chat up, but Khally said this means they are actually making money through terrorizing women.
Absolutely. Yes, that is absolutely what they are doing. Khally also said, I'm just shocked that they receive media attention. I think this is what makes them gain more power. Yeah. And, it is also about maintaining power structures. So even though pickup artists have a different goal than men's rights activists, they use the same tools, which is violence and terror. And violence is terrorism. And it's to scare, it's to keep people in fear. To prevent them from doing things, which is what's happening, like with all of these mass shootings. A lot of those are male supremacists. We'll get to incels, hopefully, well, not next week, because next week we have an ex-evangelical preacher and hopefully a rabbi, and we're going to discuss a lot of the things that are going on in the country. But
sounds like the beginning of a joke.
Yeah, a preacher, a rabbi, and a radio show host. Or on a radio show.
Walking through a show.
And then they do the show. That's a joke. All right. Way to think on my feet, right?
Yeah.
I should probably maybe I should take a class on how to be charming. Do what? Oh, okay. Nope, still not working.
Sorry.
Sorry, but she is still here. So they have this thing called a 7-hour rule. So if you go on a date, they think that 7 hours is the time that should be spent engaging with the target. You may find a PUA prolonging the date and telling you seemingly romantic things like, I don't want this night to end. And they will use the excessive amount of time paired with early disclosure of personal details to manufacture a false sense of intimacy, which does not exist yet. There is sustained, escalating, reciprocal personal self-disclosure. I don't know if y'all remember, they did this study where they had 2 people and they just sat and like 27 questions, they ask a series of more and more intimate questions, and people felt extremely close to the person after this. This is also a technique that narcissists use to learn more about their victims' weak spots to use against them in the future. Obviously, they use it to escalate sexually. Robert Greene, one of these boot camp teachers, said, few are drawn to the person whom others avoid. And this is for manufacturing love triangles and harem management. So this is back in the aura of desirability. Well, we kind of already went over that. There's emotional anchoring and seduction withdrawal. Now, this is some heavy stuff. This is what sociopaths definitely use. Narcissists definitely use. They're doing these things on purpose in order to elicit responses. So basically, they're trying to condition you. So it says that similar to conditioning, anchoring is a way for the predator to become associated with certain memories and emotional states in your psyche to evoke a certain response from you. Specific gestures, a certain tone of voice, a scent, a physical location, a song, a word, anything you can think of as fair game, conditioned during the peak of emotional intensity. So that way they can be hot and cold. Pickup artists may pair a blissful date with a moment of coldness to create a sense of pain, pleasure, fear, and excitement simultaneously in his or her target, knowing that all of these emotions are associated with biochemical addiction involved in love. If target fears losing his attention, she might work harder to regain it. Might have a habit of something that I had a guy do to me. We were going on a first date and we were just walking up the stairs to go to the L here in Chicago. And he like grabbed my arm. He was slightly behind me and turned me around and then just like tried to lay kisses on me and everything. And so obviously very strong, come on, like we haven't even had dinner yet. But also, like, I knew him. Anyways, that's a thing, trying to create this memory at that space. And it's the same L stop that I use all the time. So now the idea is whenever I go to this location that I will think of them as like a conditioned response, you know? Mm-hmm. But he didn't do it right because there was no emotional connection yet. So I'm not like, missing.
Like, almost tripped and died.
Yeah, I'm just like, what? No, get out of my mouth. I wish I had said it that way. But like they might have a habit of spontaneously kissing you in the middle of a public space, whether it's a fancy restaurant or the middle of the street, so that you associate those locations with them, as well as a mood of romance with being with them. But they gotta create that mood for it to be conditioned that way. I was conditioned to be like, this guy's too aggressive and I don't like this. So every time I walk by there, I'm like, oh, I remember that guy that I didn't like. You may notice that if you find yourself doing like impulsive behaviors, it may be a result of that. And I'll just go over the last few really quickly. There's the sexually liberated guy act, who's going to make you feel unashamed if you want to have sex with them. Or like, I know it's a first date, but I won't judge you if you want to have sex. Yep.
Of course, I won't make you feel bad about that. Like,
yeah.
Go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I actually found a list that had a couple of good ideas on there. And it was being authentic and being present. And I was like, oh my God, how did they get these on the list?
Khally said, so I'm thinking of writing a film on pickup artists because I believe we have them in Zimbabwe. It's just that we don't know we didn't know the term.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing this, because like mainstream media doesn't talk about it. And I can send you some notes and stuff about it. But there's, if you're listening and you want to know more, there's a book called Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates. If you were here for the Black Manosphere episode, you'll remember we talked about how she doesn't even mention the Black Manosphere, though. So that is something to keep in mind, that it is very white-centric. And a lot of the manosphere can be white-centric, obviously not the pickup artist realm, though can be very anti-Semitic, which is strange, but it is.
Khally also said, so in Zimbabwe, most pickup artists are people in power.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are using sociopathic tendencies, narcissist tendencies. That's where those people end up. So they're going to just generally manipulate people around them in general. So depending on what they want out of a person, they have this whole set of tools.
Okay. I was reading like saying shit. So we have those with funding, and they know that many artists, singers, and actors do not have funding, so they take advantage of that.
Yep. So there's a guy named Paul Elam. I think he might be my least favorite pickup artist. He's the guy who coined Bash a Bia month, for October, which was supposed to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but instead he wants to bash a beech tree. He says PUSSY is the only real empowerment women will ever know. Put all the hopelessly wishful thinking of feminist ideology aside, and what remains is the fact that it is men, and pretty much men only, who draw power from accomplishment, who invent technology, build nations, cure diseases, create empires, and generally advance civilization. And I just want to stop right there. Like, we look pretty bad in the world right now, right? Everything looks like chaos and war and climate disasters. So yeah, okay. Women, whether acknowledging it makes us feel warm and fuzzy or not, depend on men for all of that. And the only tool they have at their disposal of any sort of influence on any of the power is the power of the P, and P is powerful indeed. Sexual robotics may well prove to be the best thing that ever happened to women from the standpoint of their humanity, which, if you aren't aware, these kinds of men getting hold of like sex robots are doing horrible things to them. They're like, oh, well, we're not harming women now, but no, we'll probably bring that up for incels.
Living out their darkest fantasies with them. Yeah,
doing terrible things. Matt Forney of Return of Kings, he says, no functioning healthy society would allow Pulse or the kinds of men who frequented it to exist, which, if you remember, the Pulse nightclub was a mass shooting. And no healthy society would mourn their passing. Indeed, depending on your perspective, Mateen was just taking out the trash, eliminating societal parasites via natural selection. When a man and woman are attracted to one another, they are seeing the continuation of their tribe and the formation. So as you can see, this is very heteronormative. This also works very well into this Christian nationalist, like patriarchy. He also says, if a girl is in favor of abortion, there's evil dwelling in her soul. If you let her into your life, she will do her best to ruin you and bring you down to her level. All right. So there's just so much to go. Now you can see why I just definitely couldn't bring in incels today. Yeah, but
heavy topic.
It's a heavy topic. And it's hard to find quotes by these guys that I can say on the radio, honestly. Khally, why don't you go ahead and give us a list so we can plug you before we go? We've got a few minutes left. Do you have any other questions or thoughts about pickup artists? I mean, they don't like women. They don't like them.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let me switch my video on then. It's good to be back. Okay, so to explain the points that the points that I wrote, in Zimbabwe, we do have a lot of them. It's just that they are not confirmed pickup artists as yet. But from the actions and everything that they do, you can just tell that these are pickup artists because they always try to make to make sure that your confidence is at its lowest level. And then we have those that have got funding and they'll be knowing that you really need that funding. And then they'll start, it will be an indirect sexual harassment, things like, can I take you for lunch? Who say they can't afford my lunch? Like, why am I supposed to go out with you in order for me to get funding for a theater play? It doesn't connect.
Well, and that's what was going on in Hollywood. I'm not sure if you've heard of Harvey Weinstein, but and actually a guy I dealt with who was a director, they use their positions in order to manipulate women. That's a little bit less like pickup artists. It's a little bit more, I mean, it's a more coerced, it's more rapey. It's rape. It's just kind of a little different. They're using their power to coerce you though, versus psychological manipulation.
Yes.
They might be using both, but if they're in power and they use that power, that is a form of like sexual assault, at least as recognized in
sexual harassment, sexual. So
yeah.
Like in the military, we can't fraternize. Like if somebody outranks you too much, you can't be together, because if that person who outranks you, they can coerce you. Like they can give orders. They can withhold you getting an advancement, There was a colonel at a previous unit who he fraternized with I think it was a E4. Then he kind of lost his rank after that. Like there was a big scandal involving him. He lost his rank and faced a court martial. It's also illegal, it's also illegal in the army because he was also that woman was also married, so it was that and adultery, which is frowned upon in the military. I guess it's frowned upon everywhere, but it's frowned upon majorly in the military. Really, it's seen pretty standard in the Navy. They call it having a sea wife and sea husband.
As long as people don't find out, but people found out.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
What were you saying, Khally?
No, I was saying, I just love the topic. I went on the internet. My phone could go on internet, so I was just reading a lot about that. And then I thought, like, maybe if we can address this using a film or a theater play, maybe they can understand and, probably stop their actions because they're not good at all.
It depends. I mean, some of them definitely want to do it, and some don't really understand what they're being taught. I think it's a combination of both. Bad either way it goes. But I'd love to chat with you more offline, and we can I can put you in touch with some resources. But we do got to wrap up now. Do you want to go ahead and just plug yourself again? Tell everyone how they find you.
On Facebook, I am Star Singer. I will send you my links. Maybe you can post them sometime. On Facebook, I'm Star Singer, and I'm there on WhatsApp, and on LinkedIn is Khally Sibanda, and as well as Instagram.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, and I'll leave the links in the YouTube.
Okay. Yes, I'll definitely put the links on the YouTube so that you can get them. Let me just click the link. Yeah.
Zach, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Straw Hat Zach, and also on TikTok with the same username. You can find me on Facebook at Zachary Byrd. I don't ever use it, so don't be surprised if you try to reach out to me and I don't respond because I don't use it, but I have an account.
Yeah, you can go look at it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anything back, though. And I am your host, Rachel Bloomstrom. Again, next week we will be talking with at least an ex-evangelical pastor. He left the church after they passed that gay couples could get married, and he was marrying gay couples. He is gay. And there was a big split in the church at that time. So we'll be hearing from him, and hopefully we'll have a rabbi and we can talk about the Christian nationalism that's happening in this country right now. If you missed last week's episode, you might really want to check that one out before you hear next week's, because we do talk about the Christian dominionism, what their plan is, how they plan to get there, what they are doing. It's really gross and scary. I definitely recommend checking it out. It's a lot of really important information that you just don't get on mainstream media. And that's the whole point of the show. In other news is to show you the things that mainstream media is either not covering, undercovering, or misleading on. And hopefully we're presenting it in a format that's comfortable to talk about. You know, it's for everyone. We're not trying to make anybody feel like these topics are inaccessible. You can reach me at any of my social medias. If you want to talk about doing the show or any other works, you can email me at rachelbloomstrom@gmail.com. But again, check out my YouTube. Please follow, subscribe, because that helps me the most. If you think I'm doing a great job, you can support me on my Patreon. So we will close the show with another potential theme song. If you have a vote for what you think might be a good new theme song for the show, let me know. This is Rebel Girl by Bikini Kill. I'll see you next time in other news.